Monkey.
Canelo Alvarez defeats Triple G via unanimous decision in a relatively lackluster fight. Now let's start off with Canelo. I thought he looked pretty good. His counterpunching was on point. He showed a variety of different punches from hooks to straight shots to uppercuts. And he was not headhunting Triple G. He was going down to the body and then he would come up top. I know a lot of people are surprised that Canelo Alvarez wasn't able to stop Gennady Golovkin, but why are they surprised? Because Triple G has an incredible chin. He's always been someone who's had an absolutely phenomenal chin. He's never been knocked down, so his punch resistance hasn't really regressed tremendously. I mean, he has looked vulnerable in recent fights, but we didn't see a massive drop off in terms of his punch resistance. So, Triple G, credit to him, he's a very durable guy. He's just aged tremendously, and we can see it. He is as slow as honey, pretty much. He only really had the jab in this fight, and his timing was actually pretty good in the first 2, 3, 4 rounds. He was timing Canelo with a couple of good jabs, but he just wasn't letting his right hand go. I was scoring the fight for the first 4, 5 rounds, and then I just stopped scoring the fight because I only saw it going in one direction, which was an easy win for Canelo Alvarez, which is what turned out to be true. Very early on in this fight, Canelo Alvarez established his rhythm and his dominance over Triple G. You could see after 4, 5 rounds, Triple G had several marks over his face because Canelo was catching Triple G with quite a few hooks. And Canelo was a massive puncher. But Triple G's chin, I don't know what God put in this guy's chin, because he has the granite jaw. It's like when this guy gets hit by a big shot, his head barely flinches. Incredible chin from Triple G. But, he really did rely on his chin to get him through this fight because in terms of his offense, he was very limited. He's too slow. His footwork wasn't good. And Triple G's never been someone who, sticks to pure boxing. He likes to come in and trade a little bit, and then he'll like to box a little on the back foot, use his jab. But, he's not an out-and-out boxer. He's more of a boxer-puncher, Triple G, where he'll present many different styles, and his performance will cater to his opponent and their strengths and weaknesses. But you can tell he's definitely got, a lot of miles under his belt. He should probably retire. He's probably got maybe 2, 3 more fights left in him. If he wants to get a big payday, maybe fight a Jamal Charlo, maybe fight Chris Eubank Jr. But beyond that, I don't really see where he can go, because he is really old. You don't want to stay in boxing for too long. Canelo's defense was pretty sharp. His defense didn't have to be amazing because Triple G wasn't throwing a lot. He wasn't throwing from a lot of different angles. It was very predictable, slow, and repetitive. But you can see moments in the fight where Canelo shows fantastic head movement. And what Canelo was really good at, even despite not getting the knockout, Canelo really breaks his opponents down. And what I mean by this is he'll hit you in the forearms, he'll hit you in the shoulders, and it will make your guard drop. Because he's such a big puncher, he's a strong guy. That's going to bother you. Dmitry Bivol talked, about Canelo in his fight, saying, Canelo threw a lot of shots on the forearm, on the shoulders, on the arms. And Bivol, being a 175-pounder, is a lot more durable than Triple G, who's come up from 160 pounds to 168 pounds. But, with Canelo fighting someone, who is actually within his weight range, a little smaller, but, someone who's at 168 pounds and not at 175 pounds, he's able to easily break them down and create openings, and create opportunities to shoot to the head and shoot to the body, because it's almost like he's trying to break through the guard, then he's trying to hurt his opponent. Rather than trying to go to the head or go to the body, he's trying to open you up, and he often does that by breaking through his opponent's guard. Where Canelo could have done better in this fight is his footwork. Canelo's never really had fantastic footwork. His feet are very slow, and he's a plotter. He's essentially like a heavyweight Dylan White, or should I say middleweight Dylan White. Dylan White is a plotter. Canelo Alvarez is a plotter. He doesn't use his feet well enough. He's not very light on his feet, and that's probably coming from him being an extremely muscle-bound guy, him having a very wide frame, a wide bone structure. He's not as light as some of the other guys who probably have a smaller bone structure, whose legs aren't as big, so they're able to move around. They're a lot more agile, and they can avoid shots through good footwork. But what he does lack in footwork, he makes up in terms of his head movement. I believe that's why Canelo Alvarez decided to drastically improve his upper body movement and his head movement, because his footwork is so poor that he needs to make up for his deficiency in his lower body, and he kind of compensates with his incredible upper body movement. When he's avoiding and slipping shots. Even in the Dimitri Bivol fight, Canelo Alvarez was avoiding several shots. Now, I see a lot of people say that this was a boring fight, that they didn't enjoy the fight. I believe Marcus Maidana may have come out and said something like that. I seen the thumbnail, on a fight hype video, but I didn't actually watch the fight. And I seen a whole lot of people commenting boring fight and so on and so forth. Now, it wasn't a particularly entertaining fight. It was very one-sided in my opinion. It wasn't the most competitive fight, and that's more on Triple G's fault. But I do feel like there are much better opponents that Canelo can and should face going on, that could allow him to be in a lot more competitive and exciting fights. I would like to see Canelo versus a David Benavidez. I would like to see Canelo versus a Demetrius Andrade. I would like to see Canelo Alvarez against a Jamal Charlo. Maybe the rematch against Bivol, but that's probably a little bit more than he can chew, So yeah, this wasn't the best fight to watch, but there are a lot more better fights we need to see Canelo involved in. Canelo became undisputed in not the most glamorous division. If we look at something like the lightweight division, you've got Devin Haney, you got Gervonta Tank Davis, Ryan Garcia, Lopez moved up not long ago, Kambosos, Lomachenko, whereas in the super middleweight division, other than David Benavidez, I don't see anyone really giving Canelo a competitive fight. Billy Joe Saunders, moved up from 160 to 168. He was boxing Canelo well for a few rounds. He got caught with a big shot. Canelo essentially broke Saunders' face. Triple G moving up in weight. He beat Caleb Plant. He beat Smith. So, it's not a necessarily great division. Other than Benavidez, I don't really see anyone who could challenge Canelo. I suspect Canelo will have a lot of issues against David Benavidez because of his speed and because of how big Benavidez is. I know Canelo came out and said he doesn't want to fight any Mexicans, but it would be really disappointing if we couldn't see him fight David Benavidez, because Benavidez is the only one in this weight division who stands a chance against Canelo. All of the other guys, like, let's say Andrade, Charlo, they're 160 pounders. They're not 168 pounders. So I would like to see Canelo either fight Benavidez, Charlo, or Andrade next. And those were just my post-fight thoughts, on Canelo and Gennady Golovkin. Good job to Canelo Alvarez. Triple G, he made his money, so I guess he's a winner in the end. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Alright, peace.